All right, so let's begin. Just a very quick one, just a quick reminder, or would I say synopsis of what we have done so far. I established that report writing uh, is an it's a formal writing. So, and that means you are expected to be very formal in your report. And some of the things you shouldn't bring in when you're writing your report are you should avoid shorthands, abbreviations, acronyms, except when you have written the full meaning in a previous sentence. Then that's when you can bring in the acronym in the next or subsequent sentence or idea. Then I also said that you should try as much as possible to make sure when you're writing a report, every word you're to spell or write has to be in full and correctly written as well. And you should also try to bring in advanced vocabularies, and the words you're bringing in should be in line with the issue you are discussing. That is, you have to consider bringing in the appropriate terminology to describe each information you're giving. And for that, you are strongly advised to come up with what we call academic words, right? And we gave a number of some words that can be considered to be academic words. I said when you're writing a report writing, when you are doing a report writing, some of the academic words that will help you to boost your result, your marks or your performance would be the use of rise, rose, increase, um, appreciate, skyrockets. We also have significant, remarkable. We have trajectory. We have the likes of highest. We have the likes of peak, surge, climax, apex, zenith, highest. And we also have on the negative, we have fall, decline, loss, depreciate. We have drastical or drastic. We have the likes of dramatic, fluctuation, instability, and all others. You have to bring these words in when you are writing a report because it helps to boost your expression and also describes the event on the chart and gives you a higher performance rating. Now, let's also look at the formula for writing a report. This formula for writing a report has its basis on P1, P2, P3, and P4. So this simply means your report writing should come in 4 paragraphs. Now we are looking at the first one. The first paragraph involves having two major features or components, which are paraphrase and unit of measurement. So what does this imply? The first thing you should bring in as the beginning of your paragraph one is you recopying the question that's written on your question paper onto your answer sheet, not word for word, but in a paraphrased template. Once you're done with your paraphrase, you need to identify the unit of measurement. For instance, you are to be very careful when you are looking out for the units of measurement because units of measurements are not usually written boldly on questions. They are usually hidden either at the top left hand side, top left hand corner of the chart, or at the bottom of the chart. Now, what should you look out for as units of measurement on charts? Units of measurement on charts can be in percentage. So you can look out for either the word or the symbol form, right? It can be in centimeters. So you can look out for cm. It can be in kilogram. So you can look for kg. It can be in kilometers. So you look out for km. It can be in tons. It can be in acres or hectares. It can be in degrees Celsius. So you are looking out for maybe 30 degrees Celsius, right? However it's been written. So you look out for that. You can also look out for quantity. This is usually when a question has to do with population. So in this case, you are talking about number, right? So if it has to do with humans, you should look out for number of people involved, the population that is being talked about. Now you also want to look out for currency. Your units of measurement can be in currency. So you want to look out for this symbol or this symbol or this symbol, one of them, right? So when you have paraphrased your question, please try as much as possible to look intently on the question and see if you will identify the units of measurement. Once you find it, you simply establish the unit of measurement, right? So after that, let's look at overview, which is paragraph 2. Your overview is all about giving a holistic or general analysis or description or synopsis of the question according to what you can see on the question paper. Now, when you're giving your overview, there are 4 things you should look out for. The 4 things you should look out for are so you should look out for subject or subject, and you should look out for object as well. Look out for periods or duration. Look out for keys, that's if applicable. Then look out for the highest or lowest or similarities. Now, these are the 4 major things you want to look out for that you should try as much as possible to cover when you are giving your overview. But be careful not to bring in value when you are giving your overview. Be careful not to bring in values when you're talking about your overview. Values here, I actually mean you begin to quote maybe 7 billion pounds, right? 7 billion pounds or 45%. Don't bring in these things in your paragraph 2. They are not necessary now. Bring them in when you are talking about the comparison. That's when you begin to quote all those figures. But right now, you're just giving an overview, right? Okay, so that's about the overview. Now let's look at your paragraph 3. Paragraph 3 is all about comparison. This is where your main job lies. This is where you begin to do a lot of writings. This is where you begin to show off all those academic words, is in paragraph 3. So your paragraph 3, you are strongly encouraged to begin with the word comparatively. Comparatively. So you need to compare what is happening at different periods using the different rates. Do you understand this? Now here, for your paragraph 3, your comparison should begin from the first year, right? So you are saying comparatively, in the year 1993, it is evident that UK residents started their expenditure on holiday with a rate of, you mentioned the value. Please, do you understand? Now, when you are doing your comparison, you also need to be very careful. If the value you want to mention is not accurate, don't just say it, because IELTS examiners will measure it. So when your information is inaccurate, you lose mark. So what you do when you are talking about a value that is not accurately captured in a question, use the word about so so and so. So when you use that word, it has placed you side by side with the accurate amount. So you have established that it's not exact, but then it's around so so and so. So it could be slightly before, or slightly exact, or slightly above. Please be careful, use such words so that it will place you safe. So you keep comparing and you're moving from left to right, top to bottom. From left to right, top to bottom. That's the approach you should use. We are talking about your comparison. Now, after all of that, this comparison, if you have more than 4 items, objects to compare, if you have more than 4 items to compare on the question, you are therefore strongly advised to pick the 3 prominent items. The 3 prominent items, pick them up and talk about them in your paragraph 3. Then when you go to paragraph 4, you then can talk about the remaining ones, either by having what we call group analysis. Right? You group all of them and take them one step at a time. Right? So that's another way to go. Please, are we following? So that's how you do your comparisons and establish your academic words. You are good to go. Okay, go ahead. You start what? The number 9? You're starting with that 9, but you need to indicate what year first. What year is that? Good. So in the year 1993, it is evident that the spending on holiday started at about 9 billion. Do you understand me? Don't worry, we're going into that now. So don't be too fast. You understand this. I just want you to have an overview of how to handle your report writing. Right? Now, you also need to understand that your report writing question can come from anywhere. What we have right here is a line graph. Is that correct? This is a line graph. Line graphs are not the only section or sector that your question emanates from, right? Your question can come from anywhere. So let's look at other places your questions can come from. For your knowledge and note taking, your IELTS essay report writing question can come from pie chart, line graph, table, bar graph, or you call it bar chart, anyone. You also have histogram. Then we have infographic. We have what other places? Okay, we have, this is what you call your diagram. pictograph, right? Then we also have, maybe you want to consider process diagram and perhaps plans. So these are different places your question for your report writing can emanate from. So you need to understand how these guys work, because you can never be 101% sure of where it comes from, right? However, what matters the most is your ability to understand how to maneuver all of these in 4 paragraphs. That's what matters. It's not about the question per se, it's about applying this formula to treat whichever your question would come from. So if it is a pie chart, the same formula. If it is a line graph, the same thing. If it's table, you are still applying the same formula to treat your table, right? Now we know what a pie chart is. A pie chart, like a pizza, right? In segments. So, and you know in pizza, everything cannot be equal. Some will just be small for the small child, and you give the small child a small one. Then the person who has bought the pizza with his money should take the lion's share. It's normal. So in report writing, your pie chart has that donut shape with different segments. Now it may come in two. You may have 2 pie charts as one question. Now those 2 pie charts represent 2 different periods. So the first one might be in 1960, the second one will be in 19 or in 2015. So you now have those segmented areas will be color coded. Now each segment will have a percentage. So practically you might have something like this. So here you can talk about 30%, here 20, here maybe 25. Oops, okay, let me give 25 to this guy, then 25 here. This is complete, right? 100%. Now, you can have a pie chart this way, then you have another one here also. So here can be 49%. Here can be maybe 31%. That's 80. So this can be 25%. 49, 50, 80. Oh, it's more than. So let's give this guy 80. Let's give this guy 11 and this guy 9%, right? It's complete. Fine. So this can represent 19, maybe 1990, and this represents 2010. Now you need to understand that these guys are color coded. So let's assume that this is red, green, blue, and yellow. So right here we have yellow, we have red, then we have green here, and we have blue, right? So what do they represent? For blue, it represents Gary. Then red represents bread. Then maybe green. Green represents milk, fufu. I'm looking for something that people are still able to afford right now. Eggs. Hmm? Rice from 35K to 80. Sugar. So, but you can't be eating only sugar, right? Um, Groundnuts. I'm talking of food that people, huh? Maybe corn, right? So this can be considered as corn or maize, right? Let's call it maize. Then what's the last one? Yellow. So yellow, we are looking at Indomie. Eh? Indomie. Indomie that the company now had to come out and start giving promo because a lot of people discarded Indomie from 4,000, 8,000 to 19,000. That's more than 2,000% increase. Okay, so look at these. That's how your report writing question comes, right? So um you now see this indicates the colors, right? But on your question paper, you not see this BRGY. You will see the color itself, blue. You will see the blue shade. You see the red. You see the green and yellow. Now you'll be given a question. Maybe the question will say that the chart represents the foods that um, residents of Nigeria consume at different time between 1990 and 2010. That's how your question will come. So you are now meant to report this question exactly the way you are seeing it. So what you need to do is, first thing first, recopy that question. The graph shows the foods popularly or mostly consumed by indigenes of Nigeria between 1990 to 2010. That's the question. So you now recopy that question onto your answer sheet as the beginning of your paragraph one. When you're recopying it, you're meant to paraphrase it. So you now say the pie chart, right, represents or illustrates or depicts or portrays or shows the consumption. Yes, please. No, it's not for you. That's why I'm not involving you. It's not for you yet. So the given pie chart illustrates the consumption rate of certain foods in brackets: gari, rice, indomie. No, gari, bread, maize, and indomie. In, close your bracket. By residents or indigenes or nationals of Nigeria from 1990 to 2010. That's my paraphrase now, right? Then full stop. Then my unit of measurement, I look at my question paper and I can see percentage. Look at it. It's not going to be written, like I said, but you see the symbol. So you write, the units herein are measured in percentage. Full stop. That's the end of your paragraph one. Please, do you understand this? Now, once you're done, your overview, you now say, you say that the given chart provides information about how Nigerians consume certain foods identified to be rice, blah, 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 and blah. From the year 1990 to 2010, or between 1990 and 2010. Full stop. However, it is evident that each of the foods was color coded. I'm using words because I'm reporting a chart, and that chart happened years back. It's not present. The color codes used to represent each of the foods are as follows. Then you say blue, red, green, and yellow respectively. What does this mean? When you say respectively, you're telling the examiner, when I say blue, please go to the first food I mentioned in the previous sentence. That's what it represents. When I say green or red, go to the second food. However, how you arrange the foods is how you're going to arrange their colors. Then use respectively. It's safer and more advanced for you to use than saying Gary was represented by blue. Rice was represented by blah, blah, blah. No. Please, do you understand the difference? So after all of that, you now go further to say, however, or notwithstanding, it is evident or can be seen according to the record given that the highest amount of food consumed in the year 1990 was what?
Year 1990 was Gary.
Was what?
G was maize.
Was maize. While the least or the lowest food eaten by Nigerians in 1990 was what? Indomie. On the other hand, in the year 2010, the highest amount of food was still what? Maize. While, okay, so instead of repeating it this way, you can say, based on the record, it is evident that the highest amount of food eaten in the 2 years identified are maize, while Indomie maintained the lowest. Do you understand what I've done now? Instead of saying, mention this year, mention that year, you capture that in the 2 years established, right? So at this point, you're done with your overview. We're able to identify the objects. The subjects are Nigerians, right? The objects are the foods they ate. Then the periods or the years, 1990, 2010. Then the keys were identified that they were represented by blue, red, green, yellow. Then highest and lowest were identified as well. This is you covering your paragraph 2, right? Then, and remember, we didn't mention, even when we talked about the food that was eating the most, we didn't mention value. Remember I said that. Don't bring in value at this point. So when you go to your third paragraph, this is where the job begins. This is where you then begin to say that comparatively, it is evident that in the year 1990, most Nigerians spent their money on maize as it perhaps may have been, or as it may have been the cheapest food that would sustain them at that time. And this gave a total rate of 40%. I'm bringing in the value now. However, bread and Gary, right? R&B, right? Bread and Gary maintained the same consumption rate in 1990, amounting to 25% each. Please, I understand how I'm doing my comparison. Notwithstanding, the least amount of money or the least food consumed by Nigerians in the year 1990 was Indomie. And this amounted to barely 10%. I can stop my paragraph 3 at this point. Go to my fourth paragraph. On the other hand, in the year 2010, record shows that maize experienced a significant rise or increase on the consumption rate, amounting to 49%. However, bread recorded a remarkable skyrocket. As against 25% in 1990, 2010 experienced 31%. Can you see what I'm doing? Unfortunately, in the year 2010, the consumption rate of bread, no, 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 it's not bread. What's that?
Yellow, Indomie.
Indomie. Okay, that means Gary. Oh, so there was a mistake in our overview. Yellow was Indomie, but that was not the list in 2010. So you just need to be careful, right? However, the rate of Indomie experienced a slight increase in the year 2010 to about 11%. Whereas the least amount of food recorded to have been consumed by Nigerians in 2010 was Gary, right? With a rate of 9%, which is a drastic decline compared to the record in 1990. Please, I understand the approach. Then you now end by saying, notwithstanding, based on the above information, it can therefore be deduced that whereas maize maintained the highest by increasing from 40% to 49% in the 2 years.
So I would say sorry, 97 cents.
Okay, maize maintained the highest by having an increment of 9% compared to what it had or recorded in 1999. Um, bread also maintained a remarkable rise, right? That means most citizens of the country enjoyed the consumption of bread and maize between the 2 years. Unlike Gary and Indomie, which fluctuated drastically amongst the two or between the 2 years. Okay.
Can you give a reason your own, like, the reason why?
You are suggesting or predicting a possible reason, which may be predicted to have been due to maybe poor agricultural produce or currency devaluation, whatever you want to predict. It is not given in the question. So anything you're saying is just out of your own assumption. Do you understand? So that's the way to go about your report writing. There's nothing so serious about it. Hmm? Okay, so let's quickly jump on the question we have right here on the board. So today, let's look at the question on the report writing, which is the graph below shows the spending of UK residents on visits abroad between 1993 and 2013. Okay, so just for records purpose, here is the graph. All right. So the first thing we need to do is to paraphrase this question. So let's try to paraphrase the graph below. Now, in IELTS report writing questions, you will realize that the questions may not necessarily mention the type of graph in the question. The questions don't mention the name of the graph. It usually comes with the general name for it. But when you are paraphrasing, you should try as much as possible to mention the graph. So my paraphrase will now say, Okay, so that's my paraphrase of the question. Now let's look at what is on the board. The question says the graph below. Why we have the word below is because here on the original question, the graph is actually below the question, right? And on your answer sheet, if this is your question, on your answer sheet, will there be graph below? No. So if you are paraphrasing and you still make use of the word below, examiners will want to find out where exactly the graph is on your answer paper. So it is safer and smart of you to say the given line graph because one, you've been able to identify the name of the graph, which is line graph. Now here it says shows, and we have used illustrates. You can as well say depicts, you can as well say indicates, you can as well say represents, you can as well say presents information about, right? Or gives information about. The spending, that's the amount of money spent. Spending of UK residents by indwellers of the United Kingdom. Someone might say, why don't we use UK, United Kingdom citizens, right? Because not everyone in the UK is a citizen. So it's possible that everyone in the UK can be a resident, right? You are living there. We're not talking about permanent resident, but we're talking about living, right? So indwellers of the United Kingdom on trips overseas between 1993 and 2013. So to me, this is the paraphrase. Now, on this question, can you spot the unit of measurement? Is there any type? Hmm? Billions of billions of pounds. So now, because we are treating paragraph one, we are meant to capture these two things in one paragraph. We're supposed to continue after the full stop, right? Here there is no space, so I'm going to continue on the next line. So to establish my units of measurement, I can simply write so here is my paragraph one. This is my paragraph one. The given line graph illustrates the amount of money spent by indwellers of the United Kingdom on trips overseas between 1993 and 2013. Full stop. The units herein are measured in billions of pounds. That's all. You're done with your first paragraph.
I had a similar question yesterday, and the person that was teaching, I thought of it, he said that if the unit is in billions,
I mean paragraph 2, pardon me. So that is the end of my second paragraph. We were able to capture the four major features that are supposed to appear in your overview. So we're able to identify the subjects, and the subjects right here are the UK residents. Now, what did they do? They traveled overseas, right? Let me see. Overall, the graph clearly shows that the UK residents spent their funds on four areas, namely blah 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 blah. Okay, and miscellaneous between the year 19. Okay, okay. Here after and miscellaneous during their trips or during their um, visits abroad. All right. So please include that. Overall, the graph clearly shows that the UK residents spent their funds on four areas, namely holiday, business, visits, friends or relatives, and miscellaneous during their visits abroad, then between the year 1993 and 2013. Please capture that. Hmm? Then we'll continue. However, each of the aforementioned areas here, what? The holiday, blah, blah, blah. So each of these aforementioned areas was represented by different keys, such as, so when you look at your graph, you will notice that